Well, here we are on the eve of the elections yet again. You know what's trippy? Pro wrestling. All right, a lot of people sit back, they make fun of it, yada, yada, yada. You know, it's scripted, it's this, it's that. It's not fake, you understand? It's predetermined, but it's not fake. A lot of those punches have hurt other wrestlers. Wrestlers have suffered some career-ending injuries as well as some life-ending injuries. But every wrestler that's ever interviewed always says the same thing. I'm in the ring and I'm telling a story. And the main thing I want to do is to make sure the audience reacts to the story that I'm telling. I'm going to say this again. The main thing that the wrestler wants to do is to make sure that the audience reacts to the story that he's telling. You understand? And react they do. Wrestling is ridiculously popular. It's amazing. You know it's predetermined. Sometimes you even know who's going to win. And yet people are emotionally invested. They cannot turn their eyes away from it. And so now let me point out the obvious, folks. If a pro wrestler, a man or a woman, can affect an entire crowd as long as they are telling a proper story that involves another wrestler in that ring, what makes you think that two politicians can't do the same thing to an entire United States of America? Two wrestlers in a ring, engaging, making sure that 70,000 people are engaged. Two politicians going back and forth, making sure that 300 million people are engaged. Do you understand what I'm getting at here? Wrestling is real because there's real consequences. Politics is real because there's real consequences to these actions, as you have seen from some of these Proud Boy videos and all of the other nonsense that happens. But when it's all said and done, you ever notice how when one politician wins, the other one always sits back and says, you know what? I'd like to congratulate my opposition and let's just make America better. And that's it. Show's over, folks. Just like that. You were engaged for a few months, but now see you in the next 4 years. That's politics. That's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it's been working. Some of you have seen it, while the majority of people just cannot turn away from the wrestling match. Your emotions are invested in these two combatants, when at the end of the day, there have been very few politicians in history that genuinely did not know each other. They are a part of a club that you're just not privy to because you're not a politician. It's something I learned when I was in family court. A lot of the lawyers know each other, but when you go into the courtroom, you'll think that the lawyers can't stand each other. It's all a game. It's money, and that's how they make it. Here we are once again with Kamala Harris and Trump. I withhold my vote. Yes, it's an option, folks. I know a lot of people don't seem to remember it, but yes, there is no such thing as voting for the lesser of two evils. That is still voting for evil. That means that if the person that you didn't like in the first place actually makes things worse, then you, my friend, helped to put them in that position to make the country worse. Hold your vote. Sit this one out. There's no need for you to add to a situation that'll possibly make this country worse. And to be clear, this country is not terrible by any means, but it needs to get better. Don't vote for evil. It's pretty simple. But again, all of this evil stuff, all of this is part of pro wrestling. Bad guy, good guy, bad woman, good woman. It's all a game to keep you emotionally invested. And as people are running to the polls, they're running to the polls, they're running to the polls. This just lets the government know that yes, the people are invested. This is good. This is really, really good. This is what we need. And you might sit back and say, well, T, if it's all a show, what's the whole point of the government putting this on for us? I mean, honestly, wouldn't it just save a lot of money if they just didn't do all this nonsense and just ran the country? And to that, I would say this. Whenever you get around to it, look up and see the number of people that make up the government of this United States of America. Look at that number, and you will see that that number is very small in comparison to the over 300 million Americans that make up this country. Now, I want you to imagine a country where you have 300 million citizens no longer emotionally invested in their government. Or let's put it like this. Imagine a country of 300 million people that are completely apathetic, that do not give two shits about the government that runs the country. And that government would be comprised of a mere, maybe 300 or 400 individuals. And I mean, we're talking about the main people that run it. But you get what I'm saying. There's far more Americans than the government. And if those apathetic Americans one day said, you know what? I don't care about the government. Why should this government even exist? And then that person says that to another person, and that other person says, yeah, I feel the same way. What is the reason for this government? Who gives a shit about this government? They don't even do anything. And when they do something, it's always the same nonsense. You said you were going to do something, and then you blame the other party because you couldn't get it done. I'm tired of it. It's nonsense. What if you had 300 million people that said that? You know what happens then, right? That whole January thing that happened with Trump, and times that by about a few hundred, you would see a destruction of this government if you had an America that was apathetic to its government, that did not give a shit, that was not emotionally invested. So that, people, is exactly why every 4 years you get this wrestling match, this show, this political spectacle. You get the good, you get the bad, you get everything. Look at it. Trump, all of these crazy indictments and all of this other stuff. Ask yourself, what was the point of it all if he's still able to run for president? It was to keep you all emotionally engaged, because there has to be a bad guy. There has to be. That makes the good guy even better. And there needs to be a good guy to make the bad guy look worse. But they're both performers. They're both actors. And their job is to entertain. And they do their job so well that over 300 million people are locked in. And they run to the polls. And they put in their votes. And they do all of these things. And then there's a new president elected. And what happens? You don't see America really getting any less divisive. We're more divided than ever. You don't see the average middle class person become more wealthy. There are more people on the street that are homeless. If you travel to California, if you go to New York City, you'll see it. This is the real America. I'm not talking about the statistics. Look at what you see. Look at what you see. And even what you see is not all the story. Because you might not see racism, but there's racism in America. There's white supremacist organizations. I've done videos on those. Those are real. They're not figmentations of my imagination. I wish they were, because then I would just seek therapy. But no, they're quite real. And if you don't believe that they're real, we have plenty of pictures of them showing up at these white power rallies and, Trump rallies as well. Yeah. And then meanwhile, on Kamala Harris's end, you have a woman that really can't speak that well unless she has a script. These are your choices. These are poor choices. I just want you to know that. These are very poor choices. But you have to make a choice. You have to, because you're emotionally invested, right? So my challenge to you guys is this. Cast your vote and you watch the next 4 years and you see exactly what happens, because mark my words, there will be something that happens within the next 4 years, because it's how it works. Every president has their thing that they have to put the country through in order to, solidify their legacy or whatever the hell. And this is history. Just look it up. If you don't want to look it up, you don't want to look it up. It is what it is. But Bush had to go through it with 9/11 and Hurricane Katrina. Trump, his first presidency, his was COVID-19. And if there's going to be a Kamala Harris presidency, then she's going to go through something. And we're all going to go through something as Americans. But I want you to watch and see the person that you voted in, this actor, this performer. See how they speak. See how they react. Are they cool, calm, and collected like an Obama? Or are they all over the place like a Kamala Harris? Or perhaps they just don't give a shit when they speak like a rich person named Trump. The bottom line is I want you to pay attention to the people that you vote for. These are your votes. And you got up in order to vote thinking that it was going to make a difference. And yes, it is going to make a difference. Let's see what kind of difference it's going to make. Is it going to be to your liking? But just remember, the wrestling show will begin anew in another 4 years. And as long as you're emotionally invested, you're going to just keep on watching the match, even though you know it's fake. You just can't pull away from it, even though it's not really making your lives any better. Perhaps you'll notice that the best way and the only way that your life is going to improve is going to be with how much work you put into yourself, building up your physical body, watching what you eat, etc., working on your inner spirit, your willpower, your ways and means of existing, and of course, the people you have around you, and even your neighborhood. All of these things are what really affects every single one of us, and thus affects the United States of America. And I mean, let's be honest, people. Isn't it common sense that one human being cannot fix an entire country alone? So what makes you think that these elected officials, with all of their bluster and all of their lies and all of their fake ass promises, what makes you think that that rule doesn't apply to them? For God's sakes, just consider what kind of sweeping change the government would make if more Americans, at the tune of about maybe 150 million of them, just simply said, you know what? We're not eating this meat anymore because it's trash. The meat industry will lose their minds, and thus the United States would enact sweeping changes. They would say, you know what? What can we do with this meat that will get people to buy it? That's how it works, folks. The power is with the people. The government knows it. It's the people, folks. We need each other, but we have to do better for ourselves individually. We must do better for ourselves individually before we can effectively change this United States of America. Take it light, people. Hey everybody, if you like that video, please consider subscribing to the page. Why not? What's it gonna hurt? Also, I have a graphic novel entitled Isis Omega. You can read the graphic novel for free. All you have to do is go to my website, click on the Isis Omega link, and scroll down, and you will see that there is a link for you to download the entire graphic novel so that you can read it on your phone or on your PC at your leisure. I hope you enjoy what you read, and if you do, let me know. I'm just like anybody else. I like to hear nice things, as long as it's the truth. Take care.